Thank you very much for the intro, Paulina. And I would like to welcome you all to this discussion, especially our guests who took their time and the trip to Prague to actually share their experience with building such an ecosystem as you have in Finland. So we had some initial discussions about the Finnish ecosystem, and I was really impressed about what you guys are doing there. Can you a little bit explain to us and also to the audience, how does it work in Finland? How does Define works and how you guys work together?
Thank you, Filip. So if I first start, so first of all, Finland is a nation of 5.5 million people, and we have an army of 1 million people. So we have the biggest army in Europe, and I would say that this is like very crucial starting point to understand. Of course, we also have the longest border, and all these decades we never gave up, so we knew who is our neighbor. In Define, so we have been running this Defense Innovation Network Finland for a little bit more than 1 year, so we have established a Defense Innovation Hub, and we are inviting officers, developers, investors like you, and of course all kinds of startup companies to co-create innovations. The reason why I'm coming from a small municipality called Riihimäki, 60 kilometers north from Helsinki city center. Why we are doing something like this is that we are the defense industry hub. We host one of the main garrisons of Finnish defense forces. We have 7 specific research centers, mostly focused on electronic warfare, cybersecurity, networks, ICT, everything digital, if I put it shortly, as well as also military medicine center is located in our town, as well as Patria and brother company MILLOG is there. Rasmus will tell a little bit more about that, as well as rifle manufacturer Sako. So that's like the base on which we have building now the activities, and like our accelerator has been running 2 batches, 24 graduates. Out of them, 2 successful exits, 7 VC investments, many commercial deals with defense forces, primes, and so forth. Things are happening very fast, but after this being said, I would say that we can improve quite a lot as well. And this is why I'm here. So this is exactly something that we can do together better.
Can you tell us a little bit, because this is actually fascinating for me, and we were talking a little bit about that when we had our intro call, because I think, first of all, what we've been trying to instigate a little bit here in Central Europe is this sense of urgency, which I feel, at least personally, that we are still missing. That's one thing. But the second thing is kind of get sufficient funding for these kinds of activities. Right, it would be very interesting to hear, and also from Rasmus and from you, Antti, how does this work in Finland? Kind of how did you manage to actually get that? Yeah.
Maybe I'll talk a little bit about the sense of urgency. Well, first of all, we had this discussion earlier, and then I mentioned that I got my first gun when I was 13, and I started then hunting, and we always know who our neighbor is. It's been in a family. I mean, there hasn't been many years between that we have had some sort of a problems with the neighbors. So we are really like born and raised in that what does it mean. And I have friends who are building drones at their home and doing the R&D there at their own. I mean, it's been always there that people, especially in the countryside, they've been doing that in their backyards, and now there's more ecosystem around it, and yeah, and I'm using those guns as well, what Sako has been producing and so forth, and we have the highest number of people also who are ready to go to war, I mean, I remember when the war started and I was skiing with my friends in Austria, and then there was some Norwegian guys and they were saying that, well, I mean, aren't you afraid that, I mean, you have such a long border with Russia that, how do you feel about it, that, are you afraid? And me and my friend, we just accidentally started laughing, that let them come.
About the urgency, I want to add something to that. There's something concrete you can do. Not every Finnish person feels the urgency. Not every investor feels it. Not every person, even in the military, feels the urgency. But what Teemu is doing and what Anssi is showcasing is that we're looking for, I would call them patriots, people who are inside of these institutions who want to do something. That's who Riihimäki is working with. We're not necessarily trying to work with people who are fighting us. We're trying to see who in the organization wants to do something, and then we work like that's who we are. We are part of doing what we can in our institutions to push things forward. And when there's enough of us, and what Riihimäki has been doing with the defined networks to collect us together, that's when we get some movement. So that's something you can do even if everybody's not with you. As long as you push and you find other people who do, you can you can make something.
Yeah, I think this is right, because also when I feel that lately in the last couple of years we are trying to build this, let's say, a pulse of deviation, a pulse of positive deviation, and pulling us together, not necessarily only in defense, but in deep tech, in kind of like these kind of innovations. But kind of coming back to one of my questions, how did you get that money into that system? Because that's definitely one thing we are, well, I'm not necessarily saying struggling with, but it's definitely challenging, and still investors are looking at it that this is a little bit perhaps too innovative, and we might be risking too much of money, right?
Well, we have been utilizing this kind of like normal EU funding in order that we have been able to set up the accelerator, organizing hackathons, technical demonstrations, and various challenges and so forth. And now it's even like supported that also the other countries would be doing something similar. But when we were applying, so it was a bit different, and we were even like the dual use was a little bit like let's see how this goes. But now we have been spearheading this, and now more and more opportunities for this kind of public institutions, like myself, I'm representing a city, so coming up. But also now when we have been able to show the results, so our city council, I prepared this kind of grant fund proposal, and they decided last week to put €500,000. And the idea is that then we are able to bundle it if the startup company has their own 20K or coming from the angels or whatever, so then it will be doubled, and then together with our public funding institution, Business Finland, so you will get the 60K grant. So you have like with 20K you will get 100K as a starting. So now we are able to get 25 new startups in a very short time span, making our ecosystem more stronger. Yes.
And perhaps segueing to a little bit of a different question, how do you actually make sure, because I think one thing we are definitely, or we need to work on a lot here in Czech Republic is kind of, okay, so you have a startup, right? You have an innovation, and then you are trying to, or you have even a technology, and then you need to productivize it somehow, right? And especially in the defense sector, that's something where you need to pilot it with your customers, let's put it that way. And I think definitely when I'm looking at, for instance, some of our projects in IPL, that's something which proves to be very challenging. In some cases more, in some cases less, but this is definitely challenging, and it's completely different from normal, let's say, even civilian applications, right? So how do you go about it? Kind of like how you make sure that, okay, we get there in time, or we get there as fast as possible.
I can add something, and then Anssi, I think you have a comment. But this was an issue in Finland and the whole Europe for a long time, that we couldn't get a fast validation. Like if we have a B2B startup, I've been coaching somebody and say, hey, call the CEOs, put out 100 LinkedIn messages, somebody will have to reply, and you get feedback. And for the military, first of all, they're not on LinkedIn, and even they shouldn't reply to you even if they could, because that's like their secret. And that's what I want to add about the Patriots as well. Like if everybody tries to solve a problem, so I saw this was one of my pet problems. I noticed that we cannot progress if we don't fix this. And I was trying inside a company I worked for first, and I was communicating it. Everybody I met, we need to fix this. Then my manager Tony, he picked it up, and then I went over there, and now we're building it. So what we have now is a test environment, a validation environment with the soldiers, either outside in the forest or digitally. But we do it parallel, like it's a backdoor to the military instead of having it done. Because the military, Finland has an amazing exercise that they're planning for in November next year. They're planning for that. So even though our amazing Finnish army still is quite slow in many ways. So that's something so for all of you who do something, now we have a service. I know I'm selling this here, but you can go, you need to validate it with soldiers, super important. So that's something that exists now that didn't exist. So that's one option. But I wonder also how you guys do it with how you validate the stuff.
So the barrier of entry has been historically super slow and high. Like we had one case with the U.S. military, and when we started talking with them, and they were really interested in everything. But in the end, I mean, they were saying that if we do it in 5 years, we are super fast. And so I mean, it is really slow. And of course, as a VC, I mean, you can't invest into a company like that. The first tryout is going to be like in 5 years. I mean, I need to return my capital to my investors in 10 years. So, I mean, we have hardly started when already I would need to have the exit. But of course, the door is now open. So this is also about the situation. So it's so much different now.
And is this? Do you feel this is only for Finnish military, or is this kind of like opening?
In our case, it's everywhere. And I think that's also. I mean, I don't know how many here are Czech, but you have to think that. I had a company now I spoke with. I think they're based in Sweden, and their biggest customers are in France. And they tried to sell in Sweden, they really did, but they just for some, because they have their procurement processes and everything, and if you don't fit in their procurement process, like they're going to ignore you. Even if they love your thing, it's going to be in 5 years or something. So we have to think wider. So what we do is not just for Finland, it's Europe, it's basically the whole alliance. US have some solutions for this, so it's not as an exciting market for us, but in Europe, yeah, it doesn't matter. And that's what you should think. Yes, you want to sell locally if you can, but just don't let it stop you. Just go for where the money is flowing. Go there.
Perhaps I would like to add that these challenges are the same in every single country. But when we are pushing everywhere, so somewhere there will be something beautiful happening.
And for the same company, we actually started making beer kegs. So it's making the world's hardest stainless steel. So it has a lot of military applications that we could use it to. But we actually now it's announced, so it's public. So a big part of the beer kegs in Europe will be done from this steel onwards. And but of course, I mean, in the background, the defense side goes as well. But I mean, it just takes a little bit more long time.
How do you see a role of research institutions, for instance, in this whole system? Because I feel like, and that's my big hypothesis, and I think almost everybody in the room feel like the majority of innovations, especially in kind of like deep tech, are coming from universities, or in general research institutions, right? But definitely there is this gap between academia and business, and we need kind of like to somehow translate between these two sides. At least when I'm kind of like comparing how proficient, for instance, US is in this compared to in general to Europe. I'm not even talking about I think our region, because I think we have a lot of homeworks to do actually. But how do you feel about this?
Yeah, so we work very closely with the universities, and there's a lot of technology coming out from there, which we consider dual use. So there's like a new laser coming out, and it could be used for a variety of things. But of course, in universities, they don't really like start building up new bombs or whatever. So I mean, you get the technology from there and the base for that you can do and use it for other applications. And but that's very strong in Finland, and especially like radio technology. I mean, all the Gs are coming from Finland. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is already there, and so forth. And a lot of laser stuff and stuff like this. So there's a good ground for innovation for defense in that sense.
And I think for you as investors, kind of the events like this is good, but like I again use the Patriots perspective. Like we more or less need guys in the deep tech world where they're building something from the universities to raise their hand and say, actually, I think this could be done in defense. And what I've noticed in Finland is that not everybody's doing this, but they have, it's a little bit in their head of maybe. And then when they dare to raise their hand, we can then, as a community, help them. So events like this, now today is only mostly for investors, but tomorrow is more open. Anything you can do to, because the thing is, if you're doing this, especially maybe here in the Czech Republic, you're like alone. Like if I have maybe for defense, I don't know anybody. I haven't met any investor. I haven't met a soldier. I haven't done a military service. So there has to be environments where I can feel I'm not alone. There are others like me, and that gives them that little push to dare to take the next step. So I think the environments that you can create for them will be very useful. And you will start small. I mean, Riihimäki was small also 2 years ago in defense when it comes to this tech side. Everything is growing. So that's something you guys can do for yourselves to make it go better when you find those patriots in the deep tech environments.
Yeah, and universities and research centers, of course, they are like the source of talent, first of all, I would say, and very important role in that sense. And today we have been also discussing about AI, so plenty of opportunities on dual use, and of course we need defense innovations as well, but I would say that this whole well, let's say concept of battlefield is quite blurry, so where is the battlefield after all, and in near future. So I would also encourage to think about what kind of speed up you can make with available funds for also all kinds of data and AI innovations.
Yeah, I mean, I would add on that I mean, 5 years back, going to the Finnish ecosystem, I would say that everybody was talking about climate change and impact investing, and that was a big hype. And I haven't heard those words that much anymore. Now it's all about like defense, and the sentiment has completely changed from there to this, completely. I mean, there's a lot of new programs coming up, a lot of new funds coming up on this. And also, like, I mean, if I would have told to my LPs 5 years ago that we'll be going to dual use or defense, nobody would have given me a cent. And now it's more like if you don't invest into that, then yeah, so so it's a bit different world now.
I mean, but for you, what you guys can do, if you make sure the universities know, the people who research, that if you have something, come to us. Even know that will be a step in the right direction. Because I think we have a benefit in Finland that I think, Teemu, you're like an active we have reservists. Everybody's a reservist. So if you're not yourself an officer, then your brother is an officer. And if he's not an officer, like you're both in the reserves. And if you're not in active reserve, your friend is an active reserve. Like there's always these military guys you can kind of check with. But if you don't have that environment, it kind of needs to be created. That they need to know that if I have these ideas about defense, I'm not alone. There are somewhere to direct my energy, and there are maybe investors that are willing to push and help me.
Yeah, right, definitely agree, because I think here when we are talking about kind of like innovations from research institutions making it to the real world, there is a lot to it on both kind of like the formal side, so kind of helping them build it up, right, like project management, everything kind of like productivization, but also on the informal side, right, just letting them know that you are here, that people who are interested in that are there, and that they are not alone just with the innovation. Maybe just one follow-up question. Do you typically kind of, and it might be for you, do you kind of just go to the universities and look at what they have in their shelves and take it out, and then, okay, figure out, well, does it have a product market fit or something like that, and build it up? Or is it also the other way around, that you help them figure out, okay, what kind of problem they can solve? Like something like, I don't know, hacking for defense, or what they have at Stanford.
Yeah, I mean, well, we work very closely with the universities, so we have quite a good view of what's coming out in like that, you know, this innovation is coming in 2 years, that coming in 10 years. So we see the technology already in the laboratories very, very early. So, I mean, at that point, I mean, they have just discovered something, some sort of a phenomenon, and they have no clue where to use it. It's just like, okay, this happened in a lab. I don't know, is it useful? You know, and then they make a patent out of it, and then they start thinking, this could actually solve this thing. So, I mean, this way it works in the Finnish universities, but there's also the other way. Some universities in Finland work also the other way, that you go there with a problem and then they start looking for the solution. But mostly it's this way. And then there comes the first application, the use case. I mean, as an example, that we had the first idea that this would be going to military because it was so obvious. But then we had to pivot into beer kegs instead because it was much faster to go to the market. But I mean, of course, it doesn't kill the other use case, but this first. And similar way, like, well, you know Aura, most of you know that, and all this other stuff what we are building, sensors and different sort of laser technology. I mean, it can be used for well-being, but it can be used for something else as well. Now I think it's the sense of urgency. So now these researchers, they are actually saying it themselves that, you know, I've been thinking that you could actually use this in a missile as well. So that didn't happen 5 years ago.
All right. Thank you. This is a very interesting discussion. Just looking at the time, and we have 3 minutes left, so I just wanted to ask if anybody from the audience has any questions. I can't see you, so I don't know, but probably not. I don't know.
You have a Finnish audience here.
Feels just like home.
Thank you so much.
Okay, all right. Everybody's shy. So let me give you one more question. So, what do you think are the potential kind of best or couple of learning points we can take as Czech Republic, both Czech Republic and our region, when we are? I think we don't feel still that much exposed to that border as you do, but kind of like what are the things we can make or the steps we can take in the following months or a year potentially, so that we can get much faster and more resilient, I guess, or better this.
Well, first of all, just start doing, and then, of course, if you are a public institution, so support guys who are interested about this. And just coming back to this discussion, what we were thinking about, what was the impact like 5 years ago. So I can say that defense is certainly the most impactful, like horizontal. And also it's going through, if you are talking about sustainable development goals, for example. So think about if you are in a war. So then you get it, I would say.
And if you think about it from an individual perspective, like I thought about the testing environment, the validation environment, and I really pushed to make that happen and try to convince people, and now it happens. Teemu is really great at building ecosystem, and he's been thinking, how can I make an ecosystem? And his boss, the Riihimäki mayor, had the same ideas, and suddenly he's making that. And Anssi has, as this happened, think, how can I pivot my firm to work more with defense and dual use? So on an individual, we might not have a big effect, but when we do things, everybody starts doing their part, it starts to create momentum. So if you can think, what can you do to be, if you're really, like you have a venture company that you're working with, and you're picking an angle. So if all of us pick, well, this is the thing that I'm missing in this ecosystem to make it happen. If we all just do it individually and then we help each other when we can, you'll be off to a good start.
Thank you, gentlemen. Very interesting discussion. Thank you again. And you will definitely chance to talk to our guests from Finland even later on, I hope. Yes. Thank you very much again.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for your time.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, Rasmus, nice meeting you.